Afghanistan in 2010 is a combat zone, with 130,000 foreign troops now serving there. The Americans still refer to an insurgency. In Germany, it's increasingly being simply called a war.
This is what is commonly called an act of war, or war itself. Every member of the House who has seriously looked into this issue, which I apply to every one of us, was aware of this before the vote on the current mandate.
And the body count is rising. 43 German soldiers have died in the 8 years of Germany's deployment there. The Chancellor has to justify the casualties. Each one brings the battle for Afghanistan closer to home.
Being a member of the government and the parliament makes it important to acknowledge the human doubts that all of us have or have had. Doubts over whether this combat mission in Afghanistan is actually beyond dispute. We have to face these doubts if we want to credibly support the deployment.
For years, Germany's role in Afghanistan was seen as armed development aid rather than combat. Not too long ago, the politicians were still stressing the focus on protecting new schools for girls. The fighting was said to be left for others.
I think the public's appraisal of the deployment has little to do with reality in terms of both what is doable and just how large-scale the presence has to be. Just being there, obviously, is not enough.
Another factor here has been the government's lack of transparency. Bad news was glossed over, while serious problems and accompanying debates were studiously avoided. Official ministerial visits often seemed awkward, if not completely out of place. And the Chancellor herself has rarely been seen in the company of her own troops. Afghanistan was just not her department.
The German military in Afghanistan is not an issue that will win you popularity points with voters. She has an almost clairvoyant talent for sensing what makes people popular or unpopular. The German military presence has now become a very unpopular issue. It's something she was reluctant to be associated with in the past.
Since the Second World War, there's been a general consensus that war is not something that wins politicians' votes in Germany. Any attempts over the years to change this consensus resulted in painful repercussions, sometimes physical, for the relevant politicians. And the previous Chancellor's opposition to the Iraq War certainly helped boost his popularity.
Do not expect Germany to agree to a resolution that legitimizes the war.
Chancellor Merkel finds herself in a new situation and is having to rethink her position. The issue of Afghanistan is not going away, and the more headlines it produces, the greater the pressure is on Merkel to mediate.
There is also a need for an intensive public debate over whether this country, this society, is willing and able to support a deployment like the one in Afghanistan. That includes bearing the consequences.
Consequences that are only now becoming fully apparent to most Germans, thanks to the growing frequency of memorial services. The highest-ranking NATO official in Afghanistan, U.S. General Stanley McChrystal, is now saying the military deployment is in a critical phase, whereas Germany's defense minister refers to war. Supporters of the Afghanistan mission find that over the top.
I hope the government hasn't now woken up some ghosts that they will be unable to control later on. All this war rhetoric has affirmed those voices that said, if it's war, then we want nothing to do with it.
On paper, nothing has changed regarding the German position on Afghanistan. Chancellor Merkel and the vast majority of politicians are behind the troops, but they are now willing to express that support in more than just words.